Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Nobody's Listening here on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel. We're back with more Star Wars every single week. It never ends. My name is Matthew. Joining me tonight, as always, is Rachel.
What a time to be alive and a Star Wars fan.
Yes, yes, lots and lots of interesting content happening right now, much to the chagrin of our friend Stephen Ronan,
Oh my
who
god.
will never partake in this amazing, interesting stuff that's going on.
Yeah, they're lost, man. I get it. I get it. I could see being turned off by some of the previous content. But, at some point, you're doing yourself a disservice, bruh. Get into it.
Yeah. I think they, in particular, if we curated like 6 episodes of this season of The Bad
Yeah.
Batch and just said, just watch these, they
Right?
would, nothing with treasure, nothing like that.
Nothing with treasure.
But just
nothing
like,
with weird romances.
yeah,
None of that.
just 6 to 7 here, watch these episodes, they'd be like, oh wow, there's some really cool stuff going on here.
And
So,
some dark stuff that we'll be talking about today.
yeah, so Bad Batch episodes 13, 14. First one is what, Pabu? 13,
Yeah.
Pabu.
Ooh.
It's not going to be this one. We are not going to talk about this one very long. So, but let's dive into Pabu. What's Pabu all about?
I will say this is the episode of Bad Batch that it took the most attempts to get through, and it's not a long run time, but I couldn't stay awake. It took me like 3 or 4 days to get through this episode.
Yeah, this one's tough.
Yeah. Okay, so this one opens up. I will say the opening for this is pretty fun. It opens up in some sort of like shady underground on some planet. I'm not sure where, but Fee and her sidekick Omega, it's kind of a weird move, but whatever, are doing a shady deal with some underground people. Maybe they're pikes. I don't know. Their helmets weren't quite pikeish, but I couldn't quite place them. And of course, the deal goes wrong. There are multiple assassination attempts against Fee, who keeps her cool until like a shootout ensues, and the Bad Batch have to step in, and they take off and escape with the goods. Once they get back on the ship, Fee basically points out to the guys that, like, you got a kid on board, and, maybe she needs some other forms of enrichment and friendships and life experiences other than Warzone to Warzone to Warzone.
Just
And they're
hanging out
like,
with some
huh.
hardened dudes.
Yeah, and they're just like, say what? Huh? Wait, what? And you realize in that moment I was thinking just sort of about their childhoods and like lack of childhood and how they really are not equipped to be parents to a growing preteen girl. I don't know.
They're turning her into a warrior. That's how they kind of see it. Like she's gonna be a warrior like us in a way. Other than Hunter, he has these delusions that, oh, we're gonna settle down on a
Mhm.
nice piece of land somewhere. Maybe it turns out to be Pabu. We'll see. Um, but they don't really follow up. It's like, now we're doing missions and she's part of the team now. She's one of us.
Yeah. I mean, I was just thinking about it in comparison to a very similar plot that's happening on Mandalorian, where definitely becoming a warrior is the end goal for Grogu, but there is sort of this maternal parenting that is also happening, like the like sitting on his lap and explaining how the things work, and I don't know, there's some of that stuff that maybe is not necessarily happening for Omega. So it's just interesting that like parenting is such a major theme through two of the shows right now, two of the
Yeah.
biggest shows right now. So yeah, so they go to Pabu. Turns out we learned some things about our girl Fee. First of all, when she calls herself a liberator of antiquities, she actually means that because she's not a pirate. She's collecting these items that have cultural significance to the refugees who live in this sort of idyllic city in the middle of an ocean. Also, she's hot for tech. Did not see that one a coming.
Yeah, she is
But
hot for tech.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, not
Mm-hmm.
for much longer though.
Oh no.
That could
Oh
mean any
dear.
number of things, people.
All right. So, oh, by the way, in the interim, Sid calls and threatens them, insinuating that she has the goods on them, and if they don't like stop losing her money, that they need to take her seriously.
Yeah, they probably should take her seriously. That's not
Ugh.
foreshadowing anything.
So yeah, so Pabu is, like I said, it's like this utopian city. Uh and
Can I say
they
something real quick?
yeah.
I like the number one, just popped in my head. Andor was all about parenting in many ways as well.
Jesus, you're
So
right.
that seems to be a real big thread going through. And if you think about it, maybe maybe the original trilogy, it's like a lack of parenting. Maybe that they're switching like gears here. Um, I love that. I like this sort of planet that they're on.
Yeah.
I thought this whole sort of, it reminded me of my favorite Zelda game, Wind Waker.
Mm.
Like I just want to get out on a boat and like sail out and find some treasure. And I thought that's where we were going with this. Turns out it's not quite where we're going, but I like that this is like a new sort of locale that we haven't really seen. It's not just mountains and forests. It's kind of like
Yeah.
this oceany, islandy sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean it definitely sort of thematically fits with this sort of isolated safe haven, this sort of illusion of a safe haven as we come to see that presents opportunities that have never occurred to Hunter before in terms of what the future could look like post Soldier. And that's like I know he's not our favorite character, but like that is kind of his arc this season is wrestling with what it means to live a life after having been done the thing that he was literally bred to do. And I think that this sort of, like I said, sort of metaphorically matches up thematically with what's happening here. So yeah, everything's great. The mayor's super nice. He gets along with all of his constituents. It's like a perfect utopian city. Omega makes a best friend like that. Goes off on some adventures and of course almost dies because there is an earthquake, which leads to a tsunami. And we get sort of a disaster movie after this. They really are hitting all the genres this
Yeah,
season.
they really are. And
Yeah.
that's basically this episode.
Yeah. Yep. They successfully save the townspeople. Unfortunately, the town, not so much. And this offers an opportunity for Hunter and the gang to maybe hang around and make themselves useful and explore the possibility of what life could look like in a peaceful place with Omega.
Yeah, this episode, I understand why this episode is here because it's you've got to establish that they have a place they can go. Like a community has said you can stay here, much like something that just happened on The Mandalorian, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
You have a
Mm-hmm.
place to stay until they decide no, we're going to go take back our home planet, like the exact same episode. But I digress. That's for another episode, and nobody's listening. Um, so I know that this is here, and I know why it's here, but I'm just like I don't want to see it. Like I just
Yeah.
this is just one of those episodes of like we just ended with
Yeah.
the Outpost, which was this
Yeah.
incredible episode with
Yeah.
Crosshair, and now we're going into Pabu. Here's a nice place you
Yes.
can live. Like, do we really believe that the Empire is not going to be able to find them on this
No.
place? And so I'm just kind of like, this is spinning our wheels a little bit here. This would be what I would say, even though there's important stuff in this as to why their characters are trying to make the decisions in the subsequent episodes that they're doing now. I just feel like this is kind of filler.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there's nothing I like less than being like, Matthew, you were right. But last week you hit one.
Wow.
You're like, I'm kidding.
Jeez.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Finding a new
Obviously, I'm
co-host.
kidding.
Taking auditions out there, listener.
Good thing no one's listening. No, but I mean, you had called this,
Yes.
at the end of the last episode, we were like, that was amazing. You're like, get ready.
This is
We're going to
classic
be looking for
Filoni.
treasure.
Classic Filoni right here, and it's one of the light criticisms I would give Dave Filoni is, I wish that I could just get a Filoni show where
Yeah.
it's just bangers back to back to back, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm totally invested. Give me an Andor in Dave Filoni form. That's what I want.
Yeah.
But again, I gotta understand this is designed for children, ostensibly.
Is it? Because the tonal whiplash we're about to experience going into that's the thing is like there's these weird episodes that has zero stakes because it's like this is the kid episode and then the next episode it's nothing but suicide and torture as far as the eye can see.
It's like maybe it's a show that's like, hey, parents, let's say we were parents, we were Star Wars fans, we grew up on Star Wars, so we're going to
Listen, I have
consume
cats. How dare you?
this. Okay, well, Sleepwalkers, greatest opening of a film ever time.
How dare you?
Um, but let's say like a parent who grew up on Star Wars and loves Star Wars and is going to consume the Bad Batch. Um, like there's going to be stuff for their little kids, right? So
Yeah.
maybe they're not going to understand everything that was in episodes 7 and 8 about defense bills and going
Yeah.
through the Imperial Senate. That's something for the dads and the moms. However, this Pabu is like, okay, if you're going to sit through an entire sort of political, discourse on how a bill moves through the Imperial Senate for an episode, I got to sit through Pabu. Maybe that's the idea.
I guess. I mean, it's not that that doesn't make sense. It's just kind of absurd that in one episode, an entire city is saved from a tsunami, as we knew that they would be, and the next episode is torture droids and literal suicide.
Yeah.
You really never know what you're gonna get with this show. As a parent,
Yeah.
it's probably a little tricky when you like throw on Pabu and you're like, "Oh, this is sweet," and then you see the next episode, and you're like, "All right, so this is therapy. This is a
Yeah.
therapy bill waiting to happen."
Yeah, so I mean that's all we got to say about Pabu. It's just kind of but
Eh.
we ended on the outpost. What was going to happen to Crosshair? We're going to find
Yeah.
out now in episode 14, Tipping Point. So take it
Whew.
away.
Okay, back into the Bad Batch for Grown Folks edition. This opens up with clones being loaded onto a present transport. Thankfully, this is Star Wars, so we get some cool Star Wars battle action. Another ship shows up, boards takes out the hyperdrive, and then boards the ship in like a really cool sequence because, of course, it's our boys Rex and Echo who are here to rescue the clone prisoners. They make their way through the ship.
I want a Rex and
Stunning!
Echo show. That's what I
would
want.
in a heartbeat. Watch that in a heartbeat. I think it's important to note that they are stunning everyone on the ship, and the reason why that matters will come along shortly, where you're like, God damn, the show is dark. So
They've
yeah,
been doing that in previous episodes too, where they
yeah,
stun certain people and then they just straight up shoot others.
yeah. I mean, that happens with Crosshair too in this episode.
Yeah,
So they make their way to the cockpit. Yes, is that the right word on a ship?
I think
Yes?
so.
Okay, they make their way to the cockpit, where they find the captain, who has erased most of the data banks. Echo is able to recover some of it, but they realize they're going to have to interrogate the captain, who commits suicide like the Nazi that he is.
There are strong Nazi parallels this season in Bad Batch. I mean, they're not even trying to like hide it for you little kids. It's like, no, these are space
Nine.
Nazis. Yeah, they are space Nazis, and you're gonna deal with the space Nazis.
Yeah. So they had managed to call for backup, so the Empire shows up, and all of our heroes and the prisoners escape. But the Empire just straight up blows up the ship full of stunned stormtroopers.
Yep. They don't
like,
give a fuck.
This show is so dark. It's so grim. It's so bleak. I can't believe last week was Pabu, and this is where we're at, and we're only in the cold open at this point. Of course, we go back to Torture Mountain, aka Mount Tantus, where Crosshair is being interrogated and tortured.
Yep, my boy. Now I feel bad for him, right? We were not on. Well, I was always on his side,
Yeah.
but now because the Outpost was such an amazing episode.
Yes.
So I mean, it's
Earned
top
it.
top tier Filoni stuff there. This I'm just like I feel so bad. I'm like, please, Crosshair, you can do it, man. You can escape. Figure it out, man. You can do it.
Whew, and he kind of does. So
Kind of does.
Basically Hemlock, who is honestly really a great villain. I gotta say, every time
He
he
is
shows up,
creepy.
he's sinister. He's the voice actor Jimmy Simpson is one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
I love him, and
He's the
everything
Westworld
he's
guy,
in.
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Okay.
He's been in a ton of stuff. He's like a great character actor. And he's always so great, but I've never seen him play scary quite like this.
He has such a weird voice. It's like,
Yeah.
Crosshair, give me
Yes.
the information. Like he's totally calm and
Yes.
talks so slowly and deliberately, so you have to basically let every syllable sink in, like the
Yeah.
fear of every. It's really good voice work.
Yes. And he's so emotionless that like there's no hope of there's no hope, right? You can't
Right.
try to capitalize on his emotions or get his dander up or anything like that. There is no manipulating someone as calm as him. What's interesting though is that Crosshair is quite similar. So you could see why maybe Hemlock is not getting where he wants to go with Crosshair. So yeah, the whole thing is he wants him to give up his brothers so that he can find Omega and use Omega to manipulate Nala Se. I'm guessing because this is, you would know, I don't know, but like I'm guessing he's gonna get a hold of her and see some DNA stuff, and we may get reveals. I don't know. That's just my prediction.
What I will tell you about Hemlock is we're talking about space Nazis. There is a direct when you find out exactly what he's doing with all the clones, not just Crosshair and Omega. It's sort of revealed because he, light spoiler. Hemlock and Tarkin come across each other in the next episodes, and
oh yeah. They talk in this one, yeah.
Yeah, but they talk face to face in the coming ones, and Hemlock kind of lays out exactly what he's doing with every clone, and it's very Nazi-esque. So
I mean,
he's Dr. Eugenics, probably essentially. He's Dr. Eugenics.
I mean, he's like giving him Heimler vibes or Himmler, whatever that guy's name was. Like, yeah, big time. And I was thinking about that clone that we met that committed suicide in the similar way to the captain, and I'm assuming that's the work of Hemlock, right? Like he's doing some sort of brainwashing or reprogramming.
Yeah, it looks like what he's trying to do is genetically engineer people to be loyal to the Empire from birth. I mean, it gets real dark in the next couple episodes. I'm just saying,
my God,
it gets real dark.
The show. I remember when the real Ghostbusters was too scary for me as a kid. I can't even imagine what this would have done to my fragile little mind as a child.
Yeah.
On the Disney Plus network. Okay. So anyways, Hemlock in the process of this learns that the ship had been intersected, and we find out that its location was Balmora, which I know is kind of an important location, but I didn't have time to research the background on that. But you remember.
I think, God, is that Tarkin's home planet? I can't remember
maybe.
exactly. There's like there's a whole backstory with Tarkin where Tarkin basically lives on this planet that is like his group of people live on this planet, which is their whole thing is like everything on it's basically like a Star Wars version of Australia, where every creature will try to kill you, and in order to like sort of become a man, you actually have to go out and kill like a creature that's trying to murder you, like a horrible evil monster sort of thing. And so their whole culture, basically, that's why he has no empathy for anybody, and he's just like he's like fuck them, I don't care, they're how do I want to phrase this? They are not the kind of, they're not him. They haven't gone through the things he has, and so they're like lesser beings, so to speak. So that's kind of him. I think that might be his home planet. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at this, and it was like a battle site during the 100-Year Darkness. Leviathans were bred by the Dark Jedi on this planet.
Yeah, Star Wars, man. Star Wars.
Yeah, this deserves a deep dive, actually. This is actually really interesting. But anyway, so knowing just even those little bits of information makes the fact that that's where they were headed pretty upsetting, pretty dark. I don't think anything good's there. Apparently, there's even a Balmoran flu that originated there in the Star Wars lore.
A lot of bad stuff.
Yeah, no kidding. So we learned that. Then we cut to Coruscant, where we see our girl Senator Chuchi is keeping to her promise, and she's helping to hide the clones. One of which is Hauser.
Love Chuchi.
Yeah, Chuchi is a badass, and I'm glad to see her back. I'm hoping we'll see more of her in the next couple of episodes. And we find out that they had been taken into custody essentially just for questioning orders. Like, this is now what the Empire is doing, is they're rounding up anybody who questions orders, and he's getting shipped off, apparently, to the Leviathan planet. So that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all bad. It's all bad from here. Like, bad for the clones.
It is bad for the clones. All right, so back on Tantus, Crosshair is done with his latest torture sesh. But don't worry, there's more. We'll get there. But we do get to see some badass Crosshair here, which I'm glad. I know you were glad to see, which is
yes.
Yeah.
doing his best, completely like out of his mind because he's just been tortured and still taking down dudes. Just still
Yeah.
taking them down because he's such a badass. However, he doesn't kill one person.
Yes, this is interesting. So he, because the bullets are different shaped, we know he takes out the two stormtroopers, which we were like, yes, good. These are wise choices that you're making, sir. But he chooses to stun Emery Kerr, who is the scientist that's helping. And I mean, you would don't tell, but
I'm not
like
gonna tell.
I think maybe she's the leak. Like, yes, she's participating in the torture, but I just have a feeling because like every time Hemlock gets intel, you just see her creeping around the edges in a way that makes me go, I don't know about you, Emery. I think you may be on into something here. That's my having not seen the final two episodes prediction. We'll see if I got something right for once.
My lips are sealed.
Oh,
That's all
damn
I'll
it.
say. My lips are sealed.
Sounds like you're going to be celebrating me being wrong again.
I always do. It's always a party in my head when you're wrong.
So yeah, like you said, he gets away. He kills a whole bunch of people. He's awesome, and he manages to send a distress signal to the Bad Batch. At least we hope he does. Like at this point, we don't know if it was
Yeah.
successful because he gets gassed by the resident Nazi who is immune to the gas because apparently he is Dread Pirate Roberts himself, and so he can handle it. But I'm like, lay it on a little thicker, Nick Filoni. Lay it on a little
Yeah.
thicker. We got it. They're Nazis.
Yeah.
All right. We go back to your favorite place, Pabu. Where
Pabu!
where the Bad Batch is living their best lives.
Now, here's the thing. Here's a slight annoyance factor I have with the Bad Batch living their best lives. Can I please get them in just some regular clothes? Like, why are they constantly in full gear at all times? Like, you're living your best life on this, like, beach, kind of locale. It's hot. Just, you're helping them rebuild. That's fine. You don't need to be in full gear for that.
Do you think they have any other clothes? I imagine that they only have one set of
I don't know.
fatigues, and they're very, very smelly.
How does Omega get her clothes? Like, I guess I don't really pay close attention. Is she wearing the same thing in every single episode?
I think so. I think it's like the cartoon thing where everybody just wears the same thing all the
Yeah,
time.
that's annoying to me.
Is this because does this actually root from something that happened on The Mandalorian where Bo-Katan was wearing her armor at her house? Is that really what this is about?
I mean, it's a common thing that happens in all of this stuff. That I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, okay, we want to show these people as regular people when they're not in the act of preparing for a battle or something like that. Like there is no reason Bo-Katan should have ever just been in full armor. She literally had like a blanket laying next to her. She's not in any battle. She has no desire to leave that castle. Why isn't she not
Blanket
in,
gate.
why is she not just in her lounge wear? Like, hey, I'm just in my PJs.
Yeah.
Depressed, out of my mind. No, I'm in full armor. It doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
No,
Like, how does she go to the bathroom, Rachel? Does she have to take all of her armor off and then put it all back on? I don't get
I'm
it.
hoping she has a strategic like system of egress. Let's just say.
Just seems like it would be very uncomfortable to be in full armor at
mean,
all times.
Yeah, I buy it less with her than because it's live action, and also because as someone who was also like a Mandalorian princess, she's had a lot of other clothes. I buy it more with the Bad Batch, who've literally only ever like worn that kind of stuff from like childhood on. That's what they've always worn. I can't imagine them like suddenly in like aloha shirts and
I
cargo
would have
pants.
loved to have seen it.
I mean, Wrecker, I could actually picture in like a Hawaiian shirt and some khakis.
And wouldn't that have been a great moment of like just sort of not only comedic value but also
Yeah.
just to show like look at what's the word I'm looking for? Like the just them like they're letting their guards down a little bit. letting their guard down.
Right.
They're just, like I said, living their best life. They're not worried about, trying to be prepared for war. And you could have a great piece of comedy with Wrecker in a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah.
Maybe it's two sizes too small for him, and Tech makes like a dry joke or something. I mean, it'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I could see Hunter still being in his clothes though, because he's no fun.
That's
He
true.
would.
He's always gonna have that red bandana on.
Oh my god, that stupid bandana. Anyway, why does he need a skull on his bandana if he already has a skull tattoo? That feels like skull overkill.
Why
That's
does he
too much
have the
skull.
skull tattoo anyway?
You know what? These are good questions you're asking. I can't answer them.
I don't know.
I'm not equipped for this.
It's weird. Like, at what point did Hunter say, you know what, I want a big old skull tattoo on my face?
Right? And
That's
is there who does the tattoos for all of the clones? Is there
yeah.
is there one that was like bred to do tattoos?
That's a great question because I mean they're hanging out on Camino, right? Did
Mhm.
some Caminoan say, "Hey, yeah, oh, cool, man. I'm here. I'm tattooing all the clones, whatever they want. I'll put one right there on your face, big old
Yeah.
skull." And
How
why? Why
drunk
a
was
skull?
Hunter when he was like, "I want you to make my face a skull"?
Exactly. These are the questions that Dave Filoni has not answered, and I'm disappointed in him.
Answer the question, Dave Filoni.
I don't care about how all the clones got replaced by stormtroopers, Dave. I want to know why Hunter's got a skull tattoo on his face.
Tell me about the body mods. Yes, I agree. Let's get him on the show. That would be amazing if we
I will
got him on
try
the
to
show.
make it happen.
Do it. If anyone could do it, it'd be you. But like, imagine if we got him on here and we just asked shit like that. Like,
Yeah.
no regular ass questions, just random tattoo related
I
and
would
or
1,000% do that.
I would too.
And I would tell him, look, Dave, we're not going to ask you anything about what's coming up on Ahsoka or anything. It's
Mm-mm.
just going to be stuff you've already done and some context behind weird questions. He'd
Yes.
probably do it.
Okay, well, make it happen.
Where's Star Wars Celebration this year? He's always there doing interviews and stuff. Maybe at some point in the future we can plan a Star Wars Celebration, travel event, and then we
Yeah.
can make some content for the channel at Star Wars Celebration. That'd be kind
Dude,
of fun.
I am super down. Let's do it.
I'm gonna look this
2024,
up.
you and me, we're going to Star Wars Celebration.
Okay.
It's a done deal.
Okay.
I'm in.
The first thing I look up on Google is Star Wars Celebration is skipping 2024.
Oh
So we'll return in 2025. So we're going to set that date for 2025.
no! All right, 2025. It is. I'll put it in the calendar. It's done. I'm in. All right. So where were we? Back on Pabu. Yes. So they're living their best life. Tech, on the other hand, is having a hard time because he is giving Omega flying lessons, and like every other child in the entire Star Wars universe, she is amazing, but
Every
also
other
reckless behind
Force sensitive child.
the wheel. Ooh, that's an interesting wrinkle.
Very Anakin-like, don't you think?
Yes, I guess that is the other child I'm referring to, but
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. The evidence is piling. It's piling up. You have convinced me, I think. I think I'm there. I think I'm on that conspiracy tip with you. Okay. So Tech and Rex arrive. They want to have Echo and Rex arrive, and they want Tech to decrypt the data that they got from the prison ship. And they so there's like a sweet moment where we see Omega and Echo see each other again for the first time, and she like jumps into his arms. And first of all, I was just like, sometimes I forget how fucked up it is that they did to Echo. But
Yeah.
watching him like grab her out of the air with his one
Drill hand. Or...
yes.
Yeah, they
Like,
really
what am
messed
I
him up.
watching?
Star Wars and hands. There's a thing about
Yeah.
people getting their hands lopped off, their legs
Yeah.
lopped off. It's a motif in
Yeah,
the
but
Star
at
Wars
least
universe.
Luke gets like a rad hand, at the other end. He doesn't have like a weird screwdriver hand.
Yeah, another question to ask Dave.
Where's
Why
the-
the screwdriver hand?
Like, you'd think it would be like something he could like click other things onto at this point. You know what I mean? Like a multi-tool. He needs like a Star Wars multi-tool hand,
Yeah,
right?
I 100% agree.
But yeah, so from there we go back to Tantus again, where Hemlock is chatting with his best Judy, Moff Tarkin,
Hmm.
who is suspicious that there is a rogue element in the clones. And Hemlock, being the mega creep that he is, it says instead of quote unquote decommissioning the clones, aka straight up murder, that's not enough. He has a better use for them. Jesus, this show is dark. What am I watching?
Yes. Yep.
See, this is hard for you because you can't talk about what you know.
I can't talk about what I know, but I will say it gets darker.
But can you remember how you felt when you heard this? Do you?
Yeah, I was just like, this is just. I mean, it's again. Outside people who aren't into Star Wars and don't pay attention to any of this stuff, they're going to be like, hear us talking about this and be like, what are they even talking? This is dumb. It's not that dark, right? It's not like a Serbian film dark or something like that, right? But this is just, it's the themes and the ideas that they are explicitly putting into your face that are very dark, right? So no, you're not seeing somebody being flayed alive on this show or something of that nature. But if you just stop to think about what they're telling you, and ostensibly the little kid who is watching this as to what's going on, you're like, that's kind of some heavy material, and especially when you watch the two-part finale, it really hammers home about like, wow, this is really, there's a very sort of a dark scene that happens to a specific character that I watched, and I mean, I will completely admit it. I was like, I get a little tears welling up in my eyes.
Rain on your face.
like watching, like, holy shit, they are drawing this shit out. Like, it is not just a quick sort of this bad thing happened. It is a, hey, we're gonna go a full minute here of putting you kind of on the edge of your seat, like what's gonna happen. People are watching, people are seeing, and you're just like, oh my God, if I was a little kid, I would be bawling my eyes out. I would absolutely be bawling my eyes out for what happens in the next two-part finale. So
Jesus.
It gets dark. It gets dark. Yeah, it gets real dark.
Yeah.
But good. That's what makes it so good.
Yeah, no, I agree. And something we talked a lot about when we were watching Andor was like the need to make the Empire scary again. They did it with bureaucracy in the last one. This one, they're going all in on like the Nazi stuff. And I think if there's one thing that Filoni is succeeding in, it's making the Empire truly feel terrifying again.
Yeah, because we didn't see any of that in the original trilogy. Yes, we saw Alderaan explode, but it wasn't like focused on really. It was all about other stuff. But this is just getting in the nitty gritty of, no, this is why this sort of government is bad. This is why the Saw Gerreras of the world were fighting against this. The Lucians of the world fighting against that. All of these things that were occurring is what makes it important to rebel. And then now we're also seeing in Mandalorian, like, just because you successfully rebel doesn't mean you successfully fix the things that you were rebelling against, which I think is an interesting, really interesting way to go. It's like, well, just because you're the good, quote unquote, good guys won does not mean that the good guys actually won.
So here come the bureaucrats. Do 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 do.
Here I come.
You know, we stand a self-aware king. Okay, so yeah, Hunter and Echo have a chat. This is actually kind of an interesting character moment because Hunter talks about staying here and kind of creating a life for Omega, and kind of the contradictions and the complications around like what that means for adjusting his identity, and seeing himself and seeing a different kind of future for himself. Whereas Echo, on the other hand, is like, who, started off as a reg, has a deeper connection to the regs, and he's like, no, we have to fight this. I have to go do this. And they have this moment where they talk about like the overwhelming force of it, and how Echo's like, yeah, that doesn't matter. The point is that we continue to fight for them. And I think that is such a, like, people who are involved in like resistance movements, like that is actually so speaks to like a real truth in those, that it's, yes, you want to win, the odds are overwhelming, but the fight is what matters, because like nothing changes if you don't fight, even when the odds feel overwhelming. And it's very subtle, but I think once again Filoni's getting at some like really deep stuff here.
Yeah, and I also like that, I think it's this episode, hopefully this doesn't spoil anything, but I like that they're like, they find out the Crosshair is caught. He's one of
Yeah.
the ones that's caught, right?
Yeah.
And Hunter, and Tech is like, we got to go get him. Like, we
Yep.
got to go get him. He's our brother. We got to go get him. Again, showing his growth from being around Omega, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah.
great callback to, and Hunter's like, dude, he did this once to us once before, and it was a trap.
Yeah.
They have no idea what Crosshair's been up to. They have no idea. They probably assume that Crosshair's still trying to hunt them down.
Right.
And now that Crosshair knows, they're setting up this trap. And I kind of feel for Hunter here, because Hunter, is kind of like, man, I'm the leader of this group. I don't want to lead anybody into a trap because I don't really
Right.
trust Crosshair. But then I love that it's the others around him. They're like, we got to do this. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. If we have a shot to try to save him, we have to try to save him now that we know where he's at.
Right.
And it's a cool moment. It's a very cool moment. It's a cool moment for Tech. Tech's getting a lot of cool moments lately. A lot of cool
Oh.
moments. A lot of great moments.
Tech's my
Real growth as a
favorite.
character.
He's my favorite.
Oh,
I'm
well,
worried about my boy Tech. I mean, he's got himself a potential girlfriend.
he does. He
Oh
does.
Lord.
Could have
Yeah.
kids. Who knows what Tech could be up to? He could.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, like you said, this chat that they're having gets interrupted, and because Tech has successfully decrypted it, in addition to them finding out about Echo, they learn about the Advanced Science Department, which was
The eugenics division.
yeah. Talk about a euphemism.
Yeah. Yep.
They also learn about Hemlock, so we get a little bit of information about him, which I found to be very interesting. Was that he was like a Republic scientist who was rejected for his unethical experiments. Yikes! So now he's not just like a sociopath; he is a psychopath.
Yeah.
Is what we're learning in this moment. Which, honestly, I mean, seeing him like sinisterly grinning in a dark room, I already was kind of hip to that. But having it kind of laid out is confirmation of exactly what's going on with this guy.
Yeah. It's another great thing about Star Wars. Star Wars creates amazing villains.
Yes,
Just
agreed.
always has amazing villains in it, and it's one of the reasons I'm attracted to this property so much, this IP, because yes, I love the bad guys in this kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
it's just like they introduce a brand new one. You're like, oh god, even if it's somebody who initially doesn't really have a lot of backstory, or like I remember in Attack of the Clones when
Yeah.
Grievous showed up. I
Right.
didn't really have much of any back. Like, who is this? But he just looks awesome, right? He
Yeah.
just looks threatening. And again, it gets back to how I have like a theory that everything in Star Wars is iconic. It's like the design of the aliens,
Yeah.
the way that they, just the artistic style that Star Wars and George Lucas created with it. It just makes things good.
Yeah.
And I like
No, I
good
agree.
things.
I mean, we'll have a similar conversation when we get to the next Mandalorian episode when we talk about Dorian Shand or Shard.
Dorian Shard. Well, we knew you well. And
But I will tell you, I'm very into Dorian. We'll get there, but
he's cool.
He's cool, and he's
Can-
cool on sight.
I'm gonna give the listener out there a little just tease as to what I dislike about the latest episode of Mandalorian, and it's a thing that I'm gonna tell John Favreau. I know John listens. John, please, please, you did this on Book of Boba Fett as well.
You know what
Um,
I'm thinking about right now, right?
Yeah, John, let me tell you something here.
Don't get me fired.
When a Mandalorian is getting shot at from multiple sides and multiple angles, they're not trapped and pinned down. They have this thing called a jetpack, which they could turn on and fly up into the air. I need you, John, please. Please, I need you to stop writing Mandalorians who are unable to think and use the jetpacks on their back. Please, John. I'm begging you, please. Please. Thank you.
I love a salty Matthew.
Jesus Christ, we're pinned down. No, you're not. Turn on your jetpack. Boba, fly up and shoot down.
There's a third dimension, sir.
It's I mean, did it twice. John, you did it twice. Let me proofread these scripts, John, please. Just let me proofread them before you put them out there, and I'll tell you. Come up with a different way to do this.
Yeah, like they need to be underneath an overhang. Like
Yeah.
that would actually solve the problem, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like if they were actually pinned down.
Look, they put a force field over the top of us. We can't fly out. We're pinned down. Somebody destroy the force field.
There you go.
Pay me, Lucasfilm.
And then have like one of them find out because one of them shoots up and cracks his neck.
Well, now who's getting dark?
Listen, it wasn't my fault. I watched Bad Batch back to back. All right. So we find out about that. They learn about Crosshair. We find out about Plan 88, the Seeker. Because Crosshair successfully did send out the distress to warn his brothers. Back on Tantus, before the credits roll, we have time for just one more torture session. And once again, Hemlock tries to get him to talk when Crosshair continues to refuse. They decide the only thing to do is to dial that torture device up to 11, and we get to listen to him scream in agony. Roll
Mind
credits.
flay. I love that my boy Crosshair is not giving up anything. He's just like, nope. And he genuinely comes across in this episode as like, I'm trying to save my brothers. Like, I think he's fully on the light side, for lack of a better term, at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so it'll be interesting to see if we ever see him again.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. I mean, here's the one thing. Whether you like Crosshair, whether you think his betrayal makes him unredeemable, the one thing you cannot say is that he does not have the courage of his convictions. Like, he
does.
is a principled person. Like, if he believes something, you cannot sway him. And that is true whether you're his friend being like, hey man, these guys are fascists, or you're got a mind flayer on him. He is going to stick to what he believes.
Yeah, and I think what's
no wonder
cool
you
about,
like him.
Well, yeah, what I think is so cool about him as a character as well is like there's a lot of times when people go to the like I know we have disagreements about this, but like the Reva character in Obi-Wan.
Lord. Here we
the
go.
Reva character, like her
Put
sort of quote unquote turn to the light side at the very end in that last episode was bullshit. That was just it was terrible because it wasn't set up well. It wasn't set up. There was not. And I hope that you would at least agree with that. It wasn't set up very well.
I mean, I feel
it was
like
such a
to the
quick
gray
turn.
side.
It was just such a quick turn.
No, that's fair.
That it didn't make sense. Much like, and I will say the same thing with Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. I remember when I watched that initially, I'm like, wait a minute, what? He just immediately turns to the dark side just like that, and I didn't feel it was earned. Now, it becomes earned with the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Then it totally makes sense. But the same thing with Anakin. You turn so quickly and it doesn't work. Crosshair's had 2 seasons to flesh this guy out, and his turn made it was poetic. It was perfect.
It was
perfect.
It was. And it wasn't like that episode came out of nowhere either. There had been a building. He watched his planet destroyed at the end of the last episode. And then subsequent episodes, like, you could see the needle move. And then, boom. Oh, and that is how hearts and minds change IRL, you know? And that's why it's believable. That's why you buy it. Because anytime your mind has changed or been opened, it's never just been like... It's usually a process, and I think that's
because think about what happened in the Outpost. Think about if Commander Imperial Face or whatever, if he would have brought him there, and he's like, this guy needs help, and Commander Imperial Face was like, okay, get him help. He'd still be bad guy. He'd still be on the side of the Empire, and they could still use his talents to do whatever needs to be done. But it was that one act of, nope, let him die. And he's like, okay, well, now my whole worldview has changed. I see the light, so to speak.
Yeah.
But
yes, so this is semi-related. I started Lost Stars on your recommendation. It's quite good already. But it's making me think of something that happens in the first chapter where the kids want to see the ship and Moff Tarkin allows them to come on. And he's like talking to one of the stormtroopers. He's like, it's always good to use the rod, but sometimes you need to do this. Yeah. And I mean, that guy didn't have that lesson. He didn't know that you can't always just be cruel and use the rod. And look what happened. That book, by the way, is quite good so far.
Good. You're going to love the ending, I think.
Okay. Oh, I really like the two lead characters a lot already.
Yeah. Claudia Gray is awesome. She's written multiple Star Wars books, and they're all fantastic.
Okay. Well, if this one continues to be good like this, I may have to do a deep dive. Although I really need to read the Thrawn books before we get into Thrawn, or Ahsoka, but whatever. Anyway, so yeah, that is it for this episode. Another great Crosshair focused episode.
Yeah, they're all bangers. Every time Crosshair shows up, it's a good episode. I mean, there's no bad Crosshair episodes. It's just, again, I'm very disappointed he's barely in this season at all.
Yeah.
And we'll see if he shows up in the next two episodes. It's I think you're gonna like these next two in terms of the storytelling of it. And I'm looking forward to...
I think it's going to hurt my feelings, but...
You might be crushed. You might be crushed. And for the listener out there, I accidentally spoiled what happens to Rachel because I thought she had watched these two for this conversation today, and she didn't. Or maybe I was just trolling her. Maybe this is like an epic level troll.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I'll tell you what. If it is, you got me, gal.
So thanks everyone for listening. We're gonna go watch some WrestleMania now. So Murder Clowns. All right. So we'll see you later, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
May the Force be with you.
Justice for Tech.
Justice for Crosshair. What are you talking about?
All right. Justice for Tech.